Welcome to Fiction and Focus, a podcast where we explore the craft of writing without taking ourselves too seriously. I'm Nathan Harms.
And I'm Wesley Watts. Each episode, we'll discuss uplifting topics like the soul-crushing pressure of expectations, the suffocating grip of self-doubt, and the swift kick in the unmentionables of rejection.
We'll share our experiences, struggles, and heartaches in the hope that you might find some small measure of comfort in our collective misery, or at least have a laugh at our expense.
So grab a pen, paper, and your favorite writing snack, and join us as we put fiction in focus.
Welcome, word nerds, to Fiction in Focus. I am Nathan Harms with my co-host Wesley Watts, and once again we are joined by a third person today. A person I know very well, whose name is Caleb Harms. He's my brother.
I thought you were going to say his name is escaping me.
He's only my brother. I don't know his name, though.
So, if you've been listening to the podcast, the two of you that have, don't we have someone in Poland now, or something? I don't know.
We have a bot in Poland, yeah.
We have a
So
bot.
it's someone in Poland and me. Those are your two listeners.
That's it. Absolutely. If you've been listening, you know that I do a lot of my writing and creative journey with my brother, who is an artist. So he does all of the illustrations for kids' books and all of our illustrations for our Zed and Zia sci-fi series. And he also is just kind of a creative partner in general with story and stuff like that. And we kind of bounce ideas off each other, and he's the one that gets to read all my shit first and say whether it sucks or not.
It always sucks.
He's the gatekeeper of my voice. So we wanted to have him on today, though, to get a little bit of a general idea about something near and dear to our hearts, art. So the thing is, my coffee mug. I have a coffee mug here that has Caleb all over it.
Who's that? Oh, God. I was going to say, who's that ugly bastard on there?
Oh, I'm on it, too. A little backstory. I wanted to show this off for just this episode. It says, I wish we were closer.
Buddy, I just wish we were closer.
I just wish we were closer.
Too close. We're too close.
I'm going to
Wesley, we're too close.
I'm out of here.
Smart choice.
So I wanted to showcase that. But anyway, so today's topic on Fiction Focus is we're going to talk about hiring an artist or an illustrator, whether you're having illustrations throughout your book or for a cover. Because you know what they say, you can't judge a book by its cover, but we all do. Did they say that?
Absolutely.
That is what it's there for.
Anyway, so we have a few topics we're going to go over. Wesley, so for your book that you have out,
Yep.
you did the illustrations, did you not?
Well, not illustrations, no. I took about 6 or 7 stock photography pieces and photoshopped the shit out of them.
Still counts.
So I
Still
did do the art, but I didn't draw anything on my own.
It's still a very nice cover.
Thank you.
So for those of you who are not good with Photoshop or an artist, you're probably going to want to hire an artist. Or you have a friend who's an artist. In that case, lucky you. Lucky me. He's my brother.
I couldn't say no, even though I really wanted to.
He really wanted to. So it brings us to our first topic. And Caleb, I'm going to kind of hand it over to you a little bit here. Mm-hmm. Where do we find these weird creatures, these solitude beings, where with their fillings worn on the outside, called artists? Where would one go about finding one of these?
Oh, good question. We are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. No, there's a couple places you can go. Obviously, online is a big resource. You can find artists through any social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, but you can also dive a little deeper and find artists on places like DeviantArt. I think Newgrounds is still going, I believe. That's an older one. Or even like Fiverr or something like that. And you can find that usually that's kind of a better option because if you find some independent artists that are looking for work on those sites, that can be a very good avenue. Fiverr is one that obviously you don't always know what you'll get from it, so it's a bit more of a gamble, but it can be a lot easier and a lot cheaper in that sense. But it's kind of fun to go onto social media, reach out to like, an artist that just maybe has a few hundred or thousand followers, not like tens of thousands or something, and just reach out and say, hey, I really appreciate your work. I'm looking to hire an artist. I was wondering if you would be interested in something like this. Very brief description of what you would be hiring them for. The other avenue would be finding them in person at conventions. And this is something that can be really, really useful, especially that means that you can probably hire a local artist, which makes it a little easier. You get to meet them and know them in person. And if they're at a convention, a lot of times they are looking to be hired or are at least to a point in their artist career or passion where they do want to showcase their stuff. They do want to meet people in the industry. Now, the key word that I'll say that I use there is hire them. There's a lot. There's a lot of artists that get approached all the time to come onto a project, but they're not necessarily asking to be hired. They're asking like, "Oh, would you like to do this project for free or for exposure?" And that's going to scare them off pretty quick. So it's a good thing to make note of.
Right, right. And we are going to get to that here in a little bit too, because I know that's kind of a in the art community more so than I think in any other community. It really is taught and grounded to get paid for what you do. Music, we as the musicians pay people to come to the shows on a local level to watch us play.
That did happen, kind of, in a way.
It really did.
It sounds so rewarding. Why did you guys stop?
So
I love the silence there.
Yeah. So Wesley, what have been some of your experiences within not just this industry of writing, but within music, within all that stuff? What have been your experiences working with the assholes known as artists?
I've actually had a few. So my very first novel that I never published or anything, so it was trash. I didn't realize it was trash at the time when I first finished it. I did have an idea for a cover and everything, and I approached the only artist that I know, or that I knew at the time, who I believe both of you know, Stan Yan.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic guy, fantastic artist. I didn't do it in a very smart way, though, because you guys know his style, and anybody watching this, I definitely recommend look him up. Stan Yan, it's exactly spelled out it sounds. Does a lot of great stuff. I've got one of his pieces in the next room, actually. But I was asking him to do something that really wasn't in his wheelhouse. And he was basically like, okay, I will do it, but this is a huge project. And he gave me a quote, and he gave me, like, we weren't friends necessarily. We just were acquaintances that kind of ran in the same circles. He gave me really a friend price. But at the time I was pretty broke, so that was even still too much. I'm glad I didn't really have the money, though, because I would have had him do all this work, and then the book was trash. So there's that. Then for Me and the Machine, actually, the first iteration of it, I actually did go to an artist that I found in a Facebook group.
Yep.
And she had a website and, did actually a kind of a lot of good work. And does, like, in the book world, you guys have probably both seen them where they'll do pre-made covers. So an artist just throws together a bunch of pre-made covers, and then you find something you like, you can buy that. So I actually bought one of hers for a short story that I've never finished, and then I had her do a custom piece for Me and the Machine. And I really like the piece that I got for the short story that still I haven't written, but what she did for Me and the Machine just wasn't right. Me and the Machine actually went through. There is probably about 8 or 9 different versions of that cover.
Oh, okay.
She did 3 different ones, maybe more, but they weren't hitting right. It wasn't the right whatever. And I don't want to speak bad about her, but I'm pretty sure she was using AI, which
Yeah.
I'm not. If I'm paying somebody, I'm not real cool with that on a
Right.
cover.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure, unless they're giving you a really good discount.
Yeah, and
And even then, there's
yeah, I don't
a
know, man.
lot of opinions around that.
There is, and we'll do AI. We say this every episode. We mention
We're gonna do our
do
AI
we're-
episode.
Yeah, we're gonna tackle this in the future, and we talk. Some AI makes it into just a little bit of every episode, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's the foreshadowing of the
Right.
big AI episode. That'll be your guys' season finale.
Well,
And
it'll
it's
probably
probably
be
gonna
the,
suck too.
It's gonna make everyone angry, and
or it's
that'll
going to be like the
last
series
episode.
finale. That'll be the one where we just get pissed and stop talking, and that's the last episode. And
But-
I'll edit it with AI too, so
Right.
it makes no sense.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
But spoiler: alert, I'm not 100% against AI for certain things, but for generative art, no, that's just not. I don't think we should be going there. That's.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving past that, that's when I started I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to do Photoshop and just do this myself.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of great artists out there, but when you're on a budget, it's kind of tough. So
Absolutely.
that was one of the things I kind of wanted to talk to you about. Like maybe you could walk our listeners, well, which is really just you.
Walk yourself.
Maybe in the future we'll have listeners and they'll come back and listen to this episode. But no, walk us through. I don't want to say how to get cheap art because that's not that's not really something you want to cut corners on. This is your first impression for a book, right?
Right.
It's important. So don't cheap out on it. Figure out whatever your budget is and do what you can. But maybe you can kind of give us some ideas on how we can get the most bang for our buck.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that probably the best advice I can give there is, yeah, I mean, definitely find someone who is passionate about what it is that you're doing and someone who just loves the craft, someone who does book covers either all the time to where it's just not a big deal for them. They do it because they love it, and they don't charge too much because maybe they haven't done a lot of book covers for like big known authors. They just do it locally, and that's why I recommend finding people at conventions or on smaller websites. But even if you do find someone, or go the opposite route and find someone who doesn't do book covers but just wants to try their hand at it, and it might be a learning experience for them, and they'll say, oh yeah, I haven't done that much, but I've been wanting to, so I'll do it at a discount price because I like the sound of the story that you're writing.
That's a great
and
tip.
we'll do it as an experiment. Just make sure that you find someone, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking to, Wesley, is find someone who you want their style. You want what they do. Don't try to push them out of their comfort zone too much, because then they're going to charge more, because they're going to have to spend more time to figure things out. So don't just find someone and be like, oh, you know how to draw. And because I see that from all of your little cartoony characters here, I want you to draw this super realistic sci-fi book cover. And they're going to be like, okay. $700, please, because I don't know how to do that. And then it's not going to turn out good anyway. But find someone who it's like, oh, I love your style. I love what you do. Can you do that for me for this small project? And, you can tell them, like, this is my price budget. Would that be enough? Or what can I get for that price? Because a lot of artists, they will have a range where they'll say, like, okay, I can do a super detailed cover for this much, or I can do a more simple cover for this much. Or if you pay me this much, I'll illustrate the whole book for you and edit it and do everything else like I do with my brother here
For
for
free.
free.
Um, it's funny. We do a lot of conventions, and I would say just about every single convention, Caleb does get approached
Hmm.
by someone who's working on a book, and so I'm working on this fantasy novel. Would you be interested in, doing some art for it? And Caleb, as we've been doing this longer, he's gotten better with his response. His response now is just like, "Well, email me what you're thinking, and I'll give you some quotes."
Hmm.
And that's pretty much. And by the way, we never hear from him after that because
No, 9 times out of 10, never hear anything back from them. Which for me personally is okay because I'm a little busy with our own personal projects. So whenever someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I'd like to, you know, have you do a book cover for me," I'm like, maybe. I'll keep an open mind, but probably not at this juncture. And some artists will just be like that. Some artists will be, excited and just like, oh yeah, I'm looking for something new to work on. Um, but you make a good point, Nathan. A lot of times that's how they'll approach it is say, so I've got an idea for a book and this is my story, and they'll kind of go through the extra long elevator pitch that you guys are talking about.
he does listen.
I did.
Wow.
That was a good episode.
I feel validated now.
Woo!
But it's so true, though. They will give me their, they'll be super passionate about their project, and that's great, but it's not my project. That's
Right.
theirs. If someone came to me and says, hey, I love the artwork that you do, and they started looking through our books and they're like, I love your style. I love the way that you draw characters like this, and actually see the investment where, oh, they are seeing what I do. And then they said, oh, I'm working on this kind of project and I was looking to hire someone. Your style would be perfect for that. Would you maybe like to go over some ideas? And kind of approached it that way, where it was more casual, serious enough that they wanted to hire someone, but also it felt like they were actually picking me for the project and my art style. Then I'd start to think about it a little differently. I'd be like, oh, yes, please contact me. In fact, I'll reach out to you.
Do you think, like we were talking about budgets and stuff like that, and going
Mm-hmm.
further for your buck? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think it's because I don't feel like it's like buying a used car or something, right? Like you're not trying to lowball them,
Yeah.
and I maybe they're trying to highball you. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Artists are kind of pricks.
It's true. I can't
Um,
even say no.
no. But do you think if you know what your budget is
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of know what the going rates are, and you're like, I have, $300,
Mm-hmm.
$400, like this is my max or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think bringing that up early in the conversation before, like, come up, say, hey, I really like your style. I'm working on this book. I think it would be perfect. For one, would you do a project like that for hire?
Mm-hmm.
And then also maybe bring up fairly quickly, like, hey, and just so you know, my max budget for cover art is X.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a wise thing to do? Do you think that would? I mean, because you're kind of setting the money down the table right now. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're not used to making that much, or maybe they're used to making much more. But do you think that would be maybe a smart way to do it, to talk about money early in the conversation versus late in the conversation?
Personally, I think yes. Other artists might have different opinions about it, but I think it would be. I've honestly never really had that, or rarely had that, I should say, where someone actually just gave me their price up front. And if they did, then my mind would kind of automatically not go to either yes or no. It might for some artists. Some artists might just brush it off, and if that's the case, then there you go. No one's time is wasted. For other artists, it might get them really excited and be like, "Oh, that would be great. I'd love to make some money from that for a gig." For me, that would kind of get me instantly into the mindset of, okay, well, if I took that gig, how much time would that take me so that it's worth the money? So what kind of style would I do? How detailed could I make it? And that could kind of get my gears working in that sense. More so than that, I think that it would just, because like you said, you don't want to lowball the artist, but at least then you are instantly putting out there, I have this money to pay you. So I just want to know what I could get for that, and then
Yeah,
put the ball in their court.
I think
that
that's a
makes
good way to
sense.
word it too, because if somebody doesn't know necessarily what the going rate is or what even the range is in that world, there might be some trepidation there. They might feel like, okay, I've got $300, which is probably pretty low for custom art. That's definitely pretty low for custom art, but they might feel really nervous. Like, this is a lot of money to me, but this is all I've got. Am I going to be insulting this person?
Right. And I'm not going to say that there's no artist that would be insulted, but honestly, if they do have that attitude, they're probably not worth your time anyway. Like, if you're
That's a
coming
good
with
point.
them, because, like I said, you want to find someone casual, you want to find someone who does it just because they love drawing. Yes, they probably want to make money with it. We all do as artists or authors or musicians, whatever your profession. You want to get recognized for your work. But I mean, just the fact that someone is offering you money in the first place, that's going to be a lot less insulting, even if it's $50. Don't offer them $50. I'm just saying, even if you did,
That's
that
what
would
you
still
get
be.
AI.
That's exactly. That's when the artist is like, sure, let me just go to Facebook Meta real quick. There's your cover.
Why does my
But
character have 7 fingers on one hand and 3 on the other?
it's a choice. It's an artistic choice.
I thought you wrote them that way.
This is
Well, I'm
sci-fi,
going to have
right?
to go back and fix that now.
Right. And he had 7 fingers.
Edit the book. Don't edit the artwork. It's fine.
See, and this whole time, I actually thought artists were on the federal minimum wage. That's not accurate, or
Oh yeah, of course, totally. Yeah, we totally have a consistent income. Yeah.
so speaking of artists who, I think that is a good point though, that if they're like insulted by it and they're kind of a jerk about it, and we've all met these artists before.
Oh yes.
That yeah, they're probably and it's not even that they're bad artists, right? They're probably really really good, but it kind of gives you a little bit of a clear view into what I wanted to talk about next with you, which is how do you work with an artist, and if your first interaction with them is uncomfortable or they kind of have a little bit of an attitude, especially if you're going in with a good attitude, you're going to have to work with them on that cover, whether it's a certain amount of revisions or critiques or ideas back and forth. Do you want to work with this person on a personal level towards something that, as a writer, you've put in sometimes years into said story? So I kind of wanted to talk to you, like, what is the best way, in 2 words? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
What is
that's too easy. Give him you have 13 words to use.
So he has to count them up, and
Well, that's even harder. I don't know.
the um,
Our good, nice person.
how would you go about work? So you offer the person $50. They're really excited. You realize that you probably shouldn't have hired an artist from outside of a Walmart in the parking lot, but we're here now, and now you've given them your ideas and stuff like that. How what's the best way to kind of talk to an artist? Because especially as writers, we don't necessarily speak the lingo, right? There's a certain lingo to it. How would you go about if you were a writer, which you're not, you're horrible at it actually.
No,
I'm just
I
kidding.
can barely read.
It's true. It's ironic. How would you go about, if you were a writer, talking to an artist to work on your cover or your illustrations?
Yeah. No, very good question. Well, like I said, I think that at first you want to keep it casual. Find someone that you vibe with. Find someone who gets you excited, who they're excited to hear about your project. Have that good first impression. Because, like you said, you're right. You are going to be working with these people on something that's very important to you. So you want to find someone with at least somewhat of a same level of excitement. Like, yeah, they might just take it on as a gig, and that's fine. They might not have the same passion about your story as you do, which, of course they're not. It's your story, not theirs. But if they're at least excited to do the artwork and excited to work with you and are just nice and pleasant about it, that's the first steps. After that, you do kind of want to learn a little bit of the lingo. Um, and I think the first step in that would be asking them, hey, if you like this idea, then maybe you could do like a sketch for me and I can give you a description of what I'm looking for. Maybe you could do a quick concept and we can see how that works. If you set it up like that to where maybe you want to just test the waters a little bit, they might appreciate that to be like, oh, okay, yeah, we can, do a little test or something. And you can say, oh, and I'll pay you for your time. If you want to throw me a sketch of something, then you can kind of like maybe, like I said, test the waters without committing to something right away. But at the same time, you also want to give the artist free range to an extent. You want to tell them what you're looking for, be specific because you want to get what you want, right? You don't want to just like have them do an entire finished artwork and be like, that's not really what I was looking for, because that can be really, really frustrating. So you want to be clear, you want to be specific, but you also want to say, but these are the parts that I want you to just do what you do. I want you to add your style and your impressions here and here. So give them a little bit of freedom, but also help them help you, if that makes sense.
It does. I
Yeah.
believe that's an old saying. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, that's how much sense it makes.
Really? I thought I just made it up right now on the spot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the first
Darn.
I've heard of it.
I thought I was onto something.
I actually have some thoughts to add to that, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
So I'm part of this group called Indie Cover Project on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and it was actually instrumental for my work on my cover because, like I said, I went through a bunch of different iterations of it, and a lot of that was from feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know really what I was doing at first, so I posted on there, got feedback, changed it, came back with a new version, got feedback, etc. So as part of that group, though, I see a lot of other covers. It's got like 13,000 members, so it's very active.
Mm-hmm.
One thing though that I do see regularly is people that go get an artist,
Mm-hmm.
and they bring that cover art to the group for feedback. And what they've done, it almost seems like a cardinal sin of this kind of situation is they've given that artist so much specific feedback about what they want, that it's detrimental because they are not an artist, and they don't. Some writers have a great eye for art. Even if they can't do it themselves, they have a great eye for it.
Absolutely.
I would say maybe that's not normal, though. I don't know.
I would agree with that statement wholeheartedly.
And what they do is they've got these very specific images or things that are important to them in the book, that are symbolic or whatever, or maybe part of a particular scene or whatever. And they're like, I need this look in character in standing on this kind of balcony with this type of bird, and this needs to be in the background. And they're very specific, and they know what they want. But what they're describing is like something that doesn't mean anything to somebody that doesn't know the fucking story yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And where I think you're going wrong there is all a cover really needs to do is tell you the genre and the mood
Yep.
and grab your attention.
Absolutely.
So I think in that respect, I'm just trying to give like anybody listening some thoughts there that if you find an artist you really like and that you vibe with, maybe trust them. You know?
Yeah.
Yes, no, I think that that is one of the best things that you can do. And it depends on like you said, the genre of your book as well.
Yeah.
There's a wide range in there where different art styles and different direction is necessary. I was originally taught and trained in the comic book industry. Now, if I'm doing a cover for a comic book, then it's a little different, right? Because if, say, I'm doing a comic and, I don't work for Marvel, but if I did and I was doing a Captain
Hint, hint.
America comic, reach out to me. Come on, Marvel, let me join the team.
Draw America's
But
ass.
I'll draw such a good ass. Just give me a chance.
And so
but if
we're
I'm
on
working,
OnlyFans.
oh my god,
Sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
no, you're good. But if I'm doing, say, a comic book cover, and I have to draw these characters very specifically, then it needs to fit into very specific boundaries, right? Like Captain America would have to look like Captain America. It could be in a different art style if that's what the people hiring me are looking for, but it still has to be that specific character. So there's room to play with certain things, but not others. However, if I'm hired on, say, to do a cover for a romance book or a horror novel or a sci-fi or something, and it's like, oh, this is a brand new story by an independent author. This book it's about a crew that lives on a spaceship that gets lost, and there's a green planet that's a big plot device. Go. Then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. I get to have fun with this. All right, spaceship, green planet. Is there any specific things about the ship that you're looking for? And they could be like, sure. It's a battle cruiser, so it's going to have a lot of weapons on it. Other than that, I don't really know. Then I can say, oh, cool. Okay, that gives me direction, but then I can also have my own interpretation of it. Then what I'm probably going to do is come up with a sketch, come up with like a general thing of what I'm thinking that the ship looks like, give it to the author and be like, how's this looking so far? And you can say this to the artist where it's like, how involved in the process do you want to be? Do you want them to show you their progress as they go so that you can thumbs up or thumbs down what they're doing? Or are you just going to say, do something, I trust you, and whatever it is, I'll take it and say, like, yes, that's perfect. Or maybe like, oh, I have a few like edits. Maybe you could edit just this, and this. If there's small stuff, see if they're okay with that. Don't get too nitpicky, but just have good communication with what you want the process to be, how much freedom you want to give the artist. And the more freedom you can give them to work their magic, the better.
I think up front too, because we've talked about this before, the amount, the exact quantity of revisions should be discussed prior. So it's I'm going to do this general cover for you with 2 revisions or something, and the revisions can't be start again. You know what I mean? Revision does not mean new piece.
Did I say spaceship? I meant pirate ship.
And it's
completely different genre.
Yeah, the planet's blue now. Shit.
And the title changed.
And it's a series now, so it needs to be 5 covers.
Oh God. Yep. Authors we would never do something like that. No, never.
We're not flighty.
No, not at all.
Artists aren't assholes ever. Only artists.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's really solid advice, and I think in my experience with working with you, I can say that, and we're probably harsher on each other than because we're brothers. Some people would be. But even within that, I feel like criticisms back and forth, whether it's for something I'm writing or something you're drawing, it's the same kind of rules you'd have in a work environment, right? It's using tact.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a giant prick about it. You just want to say, hey, so I really, really like this. Do you think maybe we could make the characters, hands not have 7 fingers, or whatever the case may be, or like just little things like that, versus like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like, like I don't know, I just like that's not helpful. Like I think it has to be constructive, and it has
absolutely.
to be exact. It can't just be like, oh, this I don't know, it's just not. So yeah, I think, like I said, discussing the amount of revisions, I think that's super important too, because I think that can get you in trouble because as authors, even if we try to limit our drafts, we could have 40 drafts of the same book. We can keep revising forever, and even once it's released, we can do a revised edition 10 years down the line when we found 6 typos, and that's just kind of how we do things. But for an artist, it's kind of pen to paper and so on. So
No, I think that's a great point. I work with an artist that's our friend Nathan. His name is Johnny, and he's an author. He does young adult novels. He just wrote his first children's book, and he did actually hire me on to do the artwork for the whole book. And he's a really nice guy. I was super excited about it, and he was one of the few that I did take it on as a project. And he is super nice. He pays me like hourly because, again, I gave him a good deal and discount and stuff. And I do a lot of revisions for him because he does have a specific idea of what he wants. And, it's a children's book. It's got the characters repeating throughout each of the pages. So there is a bit more than just the cover. It is a whole story that he wants to tell. So, he has a specific ideas and stuff for it. But he always starts with, oh, this looks great. I really love where you're going with this. I love how this looks. These are the things that I like about it. But can we lose the hat on this character? And then at that point, I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. If everything else is looking good, yeah, we can do this, this, and this. Then that's fine.
Well, also, if you're doing an hourly rate, even at friend prices, it doesn't really matter about the revisions, right?
Right, exactly. And that's the other thing is, are you getting paid for the revisions? Are you doing them for free? So that is something that's good to discuss beforehand, like you said.
I like the ego stroke in there for validation. As a author, artist, musician, anybody, not even in the arts, just people in general, I do think it's like sitting someone down for a review, and it's like, hey, you're doing this right, and I really appreciate all your hard work. But you lost us $500,000 last quarter, so you do want to bring in the sugar first.
Absolutely.
I find with obviously anybody who's in the arts of any kind, that are a little bit of an ego boost goes a long way.
I mean, we are creators. As creators, we are just desperate and insecure people. We just want to be noticed and loved, but not too much because we also have anxiety. So, there's a balance in there.
Desperate and what was it? Desperate and insecure people?
Yeah.
Is it too late to change the name of the podcast? I'm just kidding.
Well, we risk losing our couple of listeners.
Yeah, you'll lose me. I won't continue listening.
You came up with the fucking title. Fuck, man.
Exactly. It's a terrible title.
Oh. Very cool. So I guess the last thing I actually want to talk to you about is timelines and formats, which we can we don't have to get into formats too much, but I mean, say you're not very computer savvy,
Hmm.
which if you're listening to a podcast, you're probably somewhat computer savvy. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I don't know nowadays. But the artist has figured or finished the cover. You like it, all that stuff. You've seen it. What is if you're getting your book printed and so on? What formats do you just want a really high quality JPEG? Is there what's your thoughts on that? I know this is going to be the shortest section before I get to the last one, but I'm just in case someone's listening and be like, but they never said the format.
No, you absolutely do want to, get to the finish line, and the finish line for, say, a book cover is a printable PDF usually.
Ah,
So that is like your main thing there is to have an image that is essentially your front cover, your spine of the book, and your back cover. And it's basically all one image because it all gets printed out on the same piece of paper or board or what have you, and it gets wrapped around the pages, right? So this is like this whole thing is the one image that you want to end up with. Now, if you're like hiring an artist to just do the front cover and maybe they use like traditional mediums and that's why you hired them because you think it's cool that they still work in acrylic paints or something and that just matches the vibe of your book, then you want to get it to the point where it's like, okay, do this painting for me, send me a really high resolution image of it, and then you get to take it and put it into Photoshop and put it on your front cover, if you are computer savvy and a little bit creative. Or if you want them to do the whole thing and they're working digital, then make sure that you tell them, well, my book is going to be this format. It's going to be 5.5 by 6 hardcover, this many pages with this big of spine. If you want to just give them all the details, then they can take it and say, oh, okay, so you're going to need this much of a bleed area and this much of a this. And, if they've done book covers before, then they might know exactly what you need. Or if this is their first time doing it, they might be a little bit more in the dark. But if you can at least end up with a nice high quality JPEG of the artwork that you want, then you can get someone else or yourself to edit it into exactly the format that you need.
well said.
Yep, absolutely.
Very nice.
I can make a simple question with a long answer.
Yes, you can.
I just love talking.
There he goes talking again.
What are we doing on this podcast? Talking.
I don't know.
Weird podcast.
Right. So I've seen on that same Facebook group, I've seen a number of people go this route, and I think it's kind of interesting. I want to kind of hear your take on it. But some people will get the artwork done, just flat artwork, and actually take it to a second person to do all the typography and the setting and everything like that, which seems kind of cool because those are two kind of different art forms. Like there's definitely some overlap, but and people can definitely be good at both. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so essentially you're talking about artwork and graphic design at that point when you're getting into logos and text and framing and everything like that. A lot of artists will be good at both, but that's something that, again, you just ask them about, where you're like, oh, I also need a logo and a title for my book, and I have this specific font that I want the author's name to be in. And see if they're comfortable or knowledgeable in that wheelhouse. And if not, then you can say, oh yeah, I just need the artwork, and then I'll do the text myself, or get someone else to do that if that's okay, to finish up the cover. And usually they'll be like, oh yeah, of course, I'll just get you the image. So that is definitely something that you can have a team of people, or you can help get it across that finish line, have someone design the logo, get a graphic designer for that, get the artist to just do the cool ink blotch, weird image of an apple for your book or something, whatever you want to do. I don't know. But yeah, whatever you can do to get across that wheelhouse, just keep up the good communication with what your expectations are and with what you expect the artist to be able to do.
And I would guess if you're looking for a graphic designer, you could probably go to any major fast food restaurant, and because everybody went to school for graphic design. And did I just cancel the podcast? Did I just?
That's right. They're all working at Wendy's. That's where you can find all the graphic designers.
No, all joking aside, the artist probably would know if you didn't know a graphic designer, the artist would probably know someone
Oh, probably
within their field. I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people who went to school for graphic design and stuff like that, a lot of them aren't necessarily they're artists in their own right, right? And
Yeah.
a lot of them are artists as well, but you don't necessarily you have to have more of an eye for art versus a natural talent for drawing in order to be
Yeah.
graphic design. So.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit easier to find, and they're probably used to working within whatever format they are being told to work in. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
your style will be their style, essentially, if you can describe it to them.
And you make a good point of, see what other resources that they have, because I've done that before where someone hired me to do a logo for them, and this was kind of early on in my career, and I was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't. That's not really my ballpark, So I actually did do a few sketches for them, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of the idea. And now can you do this? And I'm like, not really, but tell you what, I know a friend of a friend. They're going to be the ones that can help you out with that. And then I kind of, transferred the work over to them, and they were thankful for that, and that worked out well. So yeah, definitely just use them as a resource, not just for their talent, but for other talents as well.
Yeah, we're all starving artists out here. We're just trying to make a buck, man.
That's right.
So I think kind of the last thing, unless we have something else that pops up in there, that I wanted to kind of ask is more about timelines. I've heard stories, and I won't name names, but I've heard stories of certain authors that I know who had to wait till the last minute to get the art file in from the artist because the artist was dragging their feet. Now, I'm not going to say artists are lazy, but why are you all so lazy? No, that's not my question.
Are you sure? It's a good question.
It is. No, good communication on timelines, like drop dead dates. It has to be this date, or what's realistic timelines? Do you think for an artist? I mean, you don't want to wait till like the book's done and I'm gonna upload it and get a proof copy and then do my book order and I have a show in a month. You probably don't want to hire an artist then. Right.
Yeah.
Unless the background is just going to be a plain color with font. Then why are you hiring them?
Simple cover. So simple.
I have $4. Not even $5.
Spit on this piece of paper. That's the cover.
Here's my book cover.
I love it. It's brilliant.
For listeners, Wesley just held up a blank piece of paper.
Right.
It's not. It's a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard.
It's a whiteboard.
There you go.
I also realized at the beginning of the podcast, if you're listening and didn't watch, and I held up a mug that has my brother's face all over it.
It's fine.
That he made me for
It's creepy
Christmas.
as shit.
Yeah, no,
It
if you're
is.
a listener, you don't have to watch. Just ignore him. You don't have to do it.
No, but I just wanted to describe it because it's so beautiful, and it was my proudest moment as your brother when you gave me that for
God.
Christmas. Just like the socks that I gave you with my face all over them.
Oh yes, I'm wearing them right now.
What is
They're
wrong with you
staring
two?
up at me, and they're horrifying.
So much. Okay, let's get back to it. What is a good timeline to work with an artist? Do you want to? Obviously,
Why am I still here?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. What is a good timeline to work with an artist? If you're working within a timeline, like what's a realistic goal? First and third?
Yeah, no, that can range. Obviously, anywhere from, you might have some artists that are like, oh yeah, I can do that in a weekend, and then others be like, yeah, give me 3 months, and that also goes back to depending on how much are you paying them. There, there's I remember during my art classes that I took in high school, essentially, where my art teacher, we were kind of talking about getting hired for projects and the business aspect of things, and he brought out a chart, and he said, if you're figuring out how much you want to charge people for your service, well, this is kind of the chart that you can use. And the chart was quality, quantity, and time. And he's like, you can have your client choose two of these things. And one of them was price. That was the other one. It was quality, price, and time. He's like, you can choose two things. You can either get something for really cheap, and have it be gotten to you really quickly, but it's not going to have the quality. You're going to have to sacrifice on that. It's going to be simple. Or you can have something, given to you really quick and great quality if you're willing to pay a little bit more. There's going to be a balance in there. So what is it that you want? If you want someone to give you a cover very quickly on a dead set time, then you might have to grease the wheels a little bit and be like, is that possible? And if so, can I give you a little bit extra money to make that happen in time? Or like a lot of projects that I've, bounced on where they're just like, oh, get it to me whenever. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to charge you like almost nothing because I can do it in my free time. There's no rush, so I can just get to it when I get to it, kind of thing. You don't always want to have that. I don't really recommend that. You do want to get what you're paying for. You don't want them to get lazy or forget about you. So you do want to give them like some kind of deadline. Be like, oh, I need this in 2 months if possible. And usually they're going to be like, oh, yeah, of course, I can get it to you by then. So just discuss that with them ahead of time. And again, be clear, but also have a back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. So if I was like, I need this super intricate cover and I need it done by Monday, but here's $1,200.
He'd do it. Look at, do you see his eyes? How big they got?
I'm staying up and doing an all-nighter on Sunday. All right.
He's like, is he joking? Is he serious?
But that's the kind of shit it would. I mean, maybe that's a bit of it. Actually, maybe that's not that big of an exaggeration. Like that's a lot of work to put into a cover. Like it.
Oh yeah.
That's
that's quick too. And
depending on what you're asking for, that's could be 30 hours worth of work sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So
depending on how detailed you want that cover. Like, I mean, again, and if we're talking about price ranges, again, it's going to be different for every artist, so I'm not going to like put out an exact price. I'm not even sure what the going rates are these days, but I've had friends that have done a book cover for $100, and I've had friends that have done a book cover for like $1,800, and it really just depends.
Yeah.
And it's a cop-out answer, but it's the true one.
It also depends on what you're asking for, like the full size too. Like just a cover isn't going to be as difficult as doing a full dust jacket for a hardcover.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And again, if you're saying like, I want it done in your style, just what you do, and give them a bunch of freedom and give them a good long date to get it to you, but a specific one, and give them a price range, then you're probably going to walk away pretty happy and actually getting to the finish line of, okay, I found someone, I hired them, and I actually got what I came here for, because you followed the process and you had your expectations in the right place.
Absolutely. Well,
cool.
You know what, Caleb, I want to thank you so much for coming on Wesley's podcast. And
thank you, Mr. Watts, for having me.
That's the validation I needed. Yeah.
Well, one last question before we go, Caleb. Why do artists think they're so much better than authors in Go?
because we are.
Oh, you fucker.
That was a cop out. Try again.
That was
Try
it,
again.
yeah.
I need specifics.
Yep. Oh, those pretentious pricks. No, thank you everybody for listening to Fiction Focus this week. Tune in next week where we'll have. It's just not going to sound as intelligent as Caleb sounded today. It's just going to be me and
It
Wesley.
never is when it's us two. Like
I know.
when it's just us two, our IQ drops like 30 points, and we're just like, oh.
It might be because we're also drinking at the time. Well, that's only been once.
Yeah, that was only
You know.
once.
Oh, but those are the best episodes when you guys are just struggling. It's so entertaining.
Well, we actually. You mean all of them? No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Wesley, where can we find your book? Go.
Hopefully by now my website's up and running, wesleywatts.com, or the evil Amazon.
Evil Amazon. And same thing for Harms Publications, which is me and Caleb. So he's not going to plug his own thing, but he's wearing a shirt.
Show the shirt.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Harmspublications.com. Come and you can't buy a shirt, by the way, but
Not yet.
not yet. Soon we'll make the shirts available. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thank you, Caleb.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.